The Clayton Tunnel of West Sussex is unique for two main reasons, the first being its appearance. The second thing that makes it unique isn't just the fact it's haunted, but rather the fact that it seems to be haunted by a few ghosts that don't really mind sharing their space with the living world. Measuring in at 1.3 miles in length, the tunnel was dug through a base of solid chalk, which took a total of 3 years to complete, opening in 1841. The northern tunnel entrance owes its unique castle look to the landowner who sold the area to the railway company, as he demanded that the tunnel entrance be distinctive and not just a black hole that leads into the side of a hill. As the tunnel was being dug, a small cottage was built on top of the tunnel entrance that served as a wage office. It eventually became a mess room for the gangers while on breaks, and after the tunnel was completed, it was converted into a home. One of the head gangers that worked on the tunnel brought his wife and children over to stay in the cottage. It was later taken over by another family. In 1861, 2 trains collided in the tunnel due to a signalling error. 23 people were killed in the accident as a train slammed into the back of a passenger train that had stopped in the tunnel. The rear coach was decimated, and the locomotive that struck it was lifted up until its funnel scraped against the tunnel roof. Several of the bodies had to be kept in the basement of the cottage until they could be taken away and buried. The accident eventually resulted in a change to railway signalling rules. The accident also served as a basis for Charles Dickens's ghost story, The Signalman. Another non-fatal accident happened in the tunnel in 1926, and in 1973, 3 Territorial Army soldiers were killed in the tunnel while taking part in a map-reading exercise. Ever since these accidents, families that lived in the cottage said they've heard the sounds of shrieks, screams, and metal crashing against metal echoing through the tunnel. A nearby field where the bodies of accident victims were kept is also said to be haunted. A former resident, Mrs. Muriel Atmere, who lived there for 38 years, said she loved the cottage as it was so peaceful and rural, despite the occasional rush of passing trains and the fact the place was haunted. One of the towers had a sealed-off entrance that led to an inspection tunnel for the ventilation shafts. Her family said they could frequently hear the sounds of footsteps and sighs coming from the inspection tunnel, and believed that it was the ghost of a ganger that died digging the tunnel. They could never see or identify who the ghost might be, and so they gave it the nickname of Charlie. The entrance was later doubly sealed, and Muriel would often think to herself, "Poor old Charlie, now he's stuck in there." While many have passed it off as simply wind blowing through the tunnel, Muriel contested that other spooky goings-on have happened in the cottage. She noted how she would sometimes hear a drumming noise coming from the table in the living room, as if someone was impatiently tapping their fingers on it. Muriel also spotted a faint glow coming from one of the towers on more than one occasion, saying it was in the shape of a man of medium height. Every time she saw the light, she would simply go back into the house. She said she was willing to investigate noises, but not the light. There was also a spirit she referred to as the White Lady. Muriel said she felt the presence of the spirit, but never saw it herself. 2 of her grandchildren did see the White Lady, and had to call Muriel into their bedroom one night to tell the ghost to leave. The garden, that contains a small orchard of apple, pear and plum trees, was also home to a sad atmosphere. It turned out that the bodies of men that died while building the tunnel were laid out in the orchard before they were sent away to be buried. Many who have lived in the house have said it's quiet and surprisingly peaceful, despite all the hauntings. Strange sounds can be heard at night, but most people put it down to animals from the nearby woods or just air blowing through the tunnel. Clayton Tunnel remains unique among haunted railway architecture, as it doubles as not only a haunted tunnel, but also a haunted house. It must be strange living most of your life alongside ghosts, but it seems for many residents, including Mrs. Atmere, that having a few spectral housemates wasn't much of a deal breaker. Perhaps this proves that a house being haunted might not always mean it's unwelcoming, and that instead, having a ghost hanging around might sometimes give a house those quirks that make it feel a little more like a home. Subscribe for more.